For a very long time, humans have been interested in writing things down. From complaining about the quality of copper, to the great philosophical works of man, the written word has long been used to preserve things we found important. This is also the case with music. To oversimplify and greatly shorten several hundred years of music theory and history, we eventually ended up with the traditional Western system of music notation, which is one of the standard systems for music notation in this day and age. If you want to know more about that evolution, I would suggest this video by Tantacruel, Notation Must Die, but go watch that after you watch this video. Because today we're not too concerned with that evolution, but we're concerned with the future, with how people want notation to evolve past where it is today. Music notation reform. It's a divisive topic, depending on who you're talking to. Some people are hardcore purists, insistent that traditional notation is the best possible way we can do things, or they simply just don't see a reason we should change. But the select few, they feel the need to change it up. They see ways that it can be changed, it can be improved upon, simplified, or made more complex for additional possibilities. To be honest, there are 1,001 reasons that someone may want to change standard notation, and I'm not really here to judge that or them. What I am here to do is tell you about where people like this congregate today, where they can find each other and bounce ideas off of each other to better hone their craft. Today, the Music Notation Project is the home for many such innovators and creators. As they say on their website, the mission of the Music Notation Project is to raise awareness of the disadvantages of traditional music notation, to explore alternative music notation systems, and to provide resources for the wider consideration and use of these alternatives. The website is chock full of alternative music notation systems and resources on such systems, and even boasts an active forum where members still congregate and meet today. However, this is just the continuation of years of work on behalf of some of these reformers and activists, spanning all the way back to 1985 and potentially farther. In 1985, a man named Thomas Reed founded the Music Notation Modernization Association, or the MNMA, as it has been called. This international non-profit organization was founded with the goal of addressing the shortcomings of traditional Western music notation that make reading music substantially more difficult than necessary, pose unwarranted hardship for musicians, and prevent many young people from becoming fluent music readers. Membership of the MNMA numbered over 100 at its peak, and boasted membership in over 17 countries, including such diverse places as Australia, Chile, the Philippines, China, and Greece. Over the course of its lifetime, the MNMA held 5 international conferences, roughly one every 3 years, which acted as a chance for the members of the association to meet in person and exchange ideas face-to-face. Additionally, it facilitated the publication of books, conference proceedings, and quarterly newsletters, which document hundreds of different notation systems, debates on improvement and reform for music notation, as well as the association's main research project. Speaking of, the Music Notation Modernization Association focused its joint efforts on a singular, massive research project, the collection and evaluation of hundreds of different music notation systems with the end goal of finding a possible replacement or alternative to traditional Western notation. It was carried out in 4 steps. Number 1. Collection. Over 500 different notation systems were collected from all over the globe. The MNMA then carefully researched each one of them, and eventually they were documented and published in the book Directory of Music Notation Proposals by Thomas Reed. Number 2. 11 preliminary screens. In order to keep the project manageable, seeing as this was the mid-90s, late 90s, and computer automation wasn't where it was today, the MNMA decided on 11 criteria to act as a pre-screen, and narrowed down the over 500 systems to a mere 45. Stage 3 was 6 more subjective and detailed screens. After each of the 45 music notation systems was chosen, they then went through another 6 screens, which would narrow it down even further to a final 37 music notation systems that would be analyzed in the MNMA's notation research project. Step 4 was probably one of the most important, in my opinion: evaluation by musicians. This final step was carried out by 7 trained musicians, who assessed the remaining systems based on 5 hands-on exercises. The responses from these musicians were then analyzed and presented in the report on the results of the MNMA evaluation test. Now, while the MNMA is not the focus of today's video, I tell you all of this because this is what laid the foundations for what the Music Notation Project carries on today. In 2007, Thomas Reid officially disbanded the Music Notation Modernization Association. On January 18th of 2008, the Music Notation Project announced itself as the successor to the MNMA's work, proclaiming its mission statement in their first blog post, and welcoming members of the MNMA to continue their support and participation as they moved into the future. Over the next year, the project would work to improve their website and its accessibility, changing grainy scanned images to crisp computer-generated graphics, and shortening their URL to a slightly shorter one that is being used today. Since then, the team behind the Music Notation Project has worked tirelessly to constantly update the website to be more accessible, productive, and easy to use. So the question really becomes, what can we find on this website? When you appear on this website, you're greeted by a bold front headline, improving upon traditional music notation, followed by a short paragraph on the project's goals. Many people struggle to learn to read and play music, and many give up before they become proficient. Could a better notation system make reading, writing, and playing music more enjoyable and easier to learn? We think so. From there, you're off to the races, with that paragraph being immediately followed by an explanation of the concept of a chromatic staff, wherein every note in the chromatic scale is given a specific space on the staff. Then they're discussing key signatures, intervals, accidentals, octave placements, staffs, clefs, all along, explaining the shortcomings behind these concepts, leading you links to learn more about specific ones, and, of course, discussing ways they can be improved upon. Then, when we go back to the top, along the top bar of the website, the project is broken into 6 areas. The first of these tabs is Notation Systems, which, as you might imagine, features the main gallery of notation systems that is available for browsal on the website, as well as a visualizer that allows you to see how music would appear in some of these different systems, and as well as displaying the criteria that the project usually uses to determine whether or not they'll display a music notation system on their website, which are coincidentally quite in line with those the MNMA used to shorten its 500 pool down to a small selection of 45 manageable ones for their research project. Finally sits the section on evaluative research on alternative music notations, where the project lists how to contact them if you're in fact interested in continuing some of this research, and resources on where bits of it can be found. The tab next to Notation Systems is the Tutorials tab, which is dedicated to an expansion on the concepts listed on the front page of the website, teaching more about chromatic staff concept, different concepts for more staffs, accidental issues, clefs issues, octave placement, how to tackle these things. There's a short overview, then the sections on 6 and 6 and 7 and 5 pitch patterns, note heads and pitch, intervals and traditional music notation, reading and playing music by intervals, intervals in 6 and 6, chromatic staff examples, and harmonic equivalent, and numerical notation systems. All explanations, information to read. Following all of that, in the next tab over, we have software, which is dedicated to resources and links to different software that different types of composer, music copyists, or music enthusiasts might use to transcribe their music into these alternative systems. This includes links to notation software such as LilyPomp, MuseScore, Sibelius, as well as a large selection of open source softwares that are known to work with these alternative music notation systems, and some other lesser known softwares that do that kind of thing as well. After this is the MNMA tab, where much of the history of the MNMA can be found, and is coincidentally where I got most of it for the earlier section of this video. Continuing on after that, we come to the Music Notation Project Wiki. This is home to a large amount of community-contributed content regarding music notation, including some systems that weren't allowed into the gallery, other types of instruments that could be used to play these systems, generally just outlining ways people think that they could help improve the process and concept of experiencing and playing music. Unfortunately, in 2023, when the Music Notation Project changed their website to a new type of design, the wiki process has become much more complicated and now stands mostly as an archive of previous content. I don't understand web design, so I can't comment on that very much, but there are still some interesting things to read in there. It does, in fact, include sheet music and alternative systems, musical examples, notation systems, rhythmic notation, nomenclature, music theory, instruments, software, and a miscellaneous tab, which is mostly just links to other similar websites that might discuss stuff like this. And at long last, we get to the final tab, and one of my favorite parts of the website, actually, the forum. Featuring message chains going all the way back to 2008, the forum boasts an impressive 344 members, and still sees new discussion to this day. In fact, I recently reached out on the forums to see if they could help me find some of their publications, because I was just so enamored while reading this that I just had to get my hands on some of the books. And I want to comment here that I really love the ability to see these conversations ranging back all the way to 2008. There's this just sheer amount of range of these conversations. There's discussions on music theory, instrument building, tonality, and there's also even a request to help, like, on a petition to change sport fishing licenses in California. I'm not entirely certain about that one, and that one led me on a rabbit hole. So if you want to see a video about that one coming out soon, just keep an eye out, because home. And that's essentially it. Of course, there's so much more detail on the sites, but I don't want to ruin it for anyone who might be interested in exploring for themselves, so I'll leave you with this brief overview that I've given you. And that, folks, is the Music Notation Project. With almost 90 alternative music notation systems available directly on their website, and plenty of ways to find more linked throughout their forum and wiki, it's clear to me that the people here have a real passion for the reform and innovation connected to music notation in this day and age. These people all see a flaw and wish to do their best to help others overcome that in their own way. And while the notation systems range from overly complex lines where you've got to use colors and dashed lines and so many things, and there's like 8 lines in an octave, all the way down to there's a simple 2 lines, and the note heads are made with shapes. It's a host of people who love what they're doing and want to contribute to the world in some small way, and I really respect that. If you think you might share that passion, or simply want to learn more about the alternatives to Western notation, this is the place to visit. Stick around for a while. Who knows? Maybe I'll see you on the forums then, and we'll strike up a conversation. And that's all. So, thanks. I'll see you next time.